Welcome to class, everyone. Okay, so imagine we're stepping into a virtual classroom today, and the screen right in front of you is our whiteboard. In this Explainer Masterclass, we're going to bridge that gap between basic, everyday conversational English and the highly sophisticated professional writing you actually need to succeed. Whether you're aiming to ace a major exam, write a persuasive business proposal, or honestly just sound a lot more authoritative in your daily workplace emails, mastering contrast connectors is your absolute secret weapon. All right, here's a quick look at our syllabus for today. We'll cover basic connectors, formal connectors, contrasting viewpoints, clauses versus prepositional phrases, fixing common exam mistakes, and then we'll finish up with a rapid-fire quiz. Let's jump in.
Section 1. Basic connectors for contrast.
So, let's look at the grammar math on the whiteboard here. We've got three basic formulas. First up, but. This shows a direct, straightforward contrast between two independent clauses. Second, yet. Now, this is structurally identical to but it brings a very specific flavor. It shows a surprising contrast. And finally, we have still. Notice the punctuation here. It's really important. Clause, period, still, comma, clause. This tells us that despite the previous information, the second statement remains true. And this brilliantly illustrates how we actually apply these basics in everyday scenarios. Let's move quickly through those first three. I wanted to go out, but it was raining. She is rich, but she is very humble. He studied hard, but he did not pass. See? Very clear, direct contrasts. Now let's look at yet. Listen closely for the surprise here. The task was difficult, yet she completed it. He is young, yet very experienced. It was expensive, yet I bought it. You can feel that little element of surprise, right? Finally, our definitive still examples. It was raining heavily. Still, they continued playing. The work was difficult. Still, she finished it. We're linking independent thoughts clearly and simply. Moving right along to Section 2, upgrading to formal connectors. Notice how the structure completely changes here on the board. In everyday conversational English, we might just write, "The hotel was expensive, but it was worth the money." It's basically one long sentence joined by a comma and but. But if we want to elevate this to a formal, professional level, we split it right into two independent sentences. The hotel was expensive, period. However, comma, it was worth the money. See what we did? We swapped out but for however, nevertheless, or nonetheless. This immediately sounds so much more authoritative and polished for, say, a professional report. So the absolutely crucial point here is that nevertheless and nonetheless operate exactly like however, but they carry an even heavier, more academic weight. Let's rhythmically read through these professional examples together so you can hear the pattern. He is intelligent, however, he is lazy. The weather was terrible, nevertheless, the match continued. She felt tired, nevertheless, she completed her work. The project was risky, nonetheless, they invested in it. The evidence was limited, nonetheless, the decision was made. Just think about how much stronger that last sentence sounds in a business email compared to just using a simple but. All right, Section 3, contrasting different viewpoints. You know, a really common trap my students fall into is confusing these two specific phrases. So write this down in your mental notes. On the other hand is used to present another viewpoint, kind of like looking at the other side of a coin. Living in a city offers many opportunities. On the other hand, it can be stressful. Simple enough. But on the contrary is entirely different. It is used strictly to correct a previous statement. The plan was not a failure. On the contrary, it was highly successful. In this case, you are actively disproving the first sentence. Now, what's really fascinating about this slide is how professionals use words like conversely to show the exact opposite situation is true. Let's treat these as little mini case studies for analytical writing. Case 1, cars are convenient. On the other hand, they're expensive to maintain. Case 2, Tom is outgoing. In contrast, his brother is shy. Now, look closely at conversely. Some prefer working alone. Conversely, others enjoy teamwork. Demand may increase prices. Conversely, low demand may reduce them. And lastly, our correction tool, he is not weak. On the contrary, he is very strong. Guys, these are powerful, precise tools for your analytical writing.
Let's look at Section 4, clauses versus prepositional phrases.
Okay, so the structural secret here is simple, but it is incredibly strict. When you use a word like although, it must be followed by a full clause. That means it absolutely needs a subject and a verb. Although she was tired. However, when you use a prepositional connector like despite, it cannot take a full clause. It only takes a noun, a pronoun, or an ing gerund. Despite being tired or despite the rain. You absolutely cannot say despite she was tired. That simply does not work in English.
I highly recommend you take a screenshot of this whiteboard table right now. This is your ultimate cheat sheet for categorizing connectors by their precise grammatical function. As you can see, clause connectors like although and whereas are followed by clauses. Sentence connectors like however and nevertheless start a brand new sentence after a period. And prepositional connectors like despite, in spite of, and unlike are strictly followed by a noun, pronoun, or an ing gerund. Memorizing this table, it's going to instantly elevate your writing accuracy.
Moving on to Section 5, Fixing Common Exam Mistakes. Let's be grammar detectives for a second. If you look at the board, you can see exactly why those top sentences fail. Look at the first red X. Although the rain we played. This is wrong because although requires a full subject and verb clause, but the rain is just a noun. Now look at the second red X. Despite it rained, we played. This fails because despite only takes a noun or gerund, but it rained is a full clause. To fix them, we simply match the rule to the connector. Although it rained, we played. That's perfect. Or, despite the rain, we played. Also perfect.
Section 6. It's time for our rapid-fire connector quiz. Let's see what you've learned. Let's pick up the pace. Question 1. Blank, it was raining, comma, they went hiking. Look closely at the structure right after the blank. It was raining. You need to ask yourself, is that a full clause with a subject and verb, or is it just a noun phrase? Because it was raining is a full dependent clause showing contrast, although, though, or even though are all absolutely correct here. Although it was raining, they went hiking. Next. Question 2. She is rich, comma, blank, she is unhappy. Look at the sentence structure. We have two independent clauses joined in the exact same sentence, showing an unexpected result. What do you think goes in the blank? You need a basic coordinating contrast connector here. So but or yet fits perfectly. She is rich, yet she is unhappy. Moving on.
Question 3. He was tired, period, blank, comma, he finished the project. Notice the punctuation very carefully here. We're starting a brand new sentence to introduce a formal contrast. What is our best choice?
Any of these formal sentence connectors work beautifully to elevate this to a professional level. He was tired, nevertheless, he finished the project. All right, last one. Final question, blank, the bad weather, comma, the event continued. Pay close attention to the phrase, the bad weather. Is that a full clause with a verb, or is it just a noun phrase?
Since the bad weather is just a noun phrase, you must use a prepositional connector. So despite or in spite of are your correct answers. Despite the bad weather, the event continued. And that officially concludes our whiteboard masterclass. You now have the formulas to contrast viewpoints, navigate tricky grammar rules, and sound so much more authoritative. So I'm leaving you with a challenge. Which formal connector are you going to confidently use to upgrade your very next workplace email and impress your boss?